everyone, it's Jackie at Spare Room Studio, and today I am back with a very small book haul to show you, and then I'm going to start colouring in one of the books. So to start with, I purchased the two new Any Day books, an Autumn Vibes colouring book and a Winter Tales colouring book by Morgan O'Brien. I'm guessing that there are probably already flip-throughs of these two books, so I'm not going to do a full flip-through of those, but if you'd like me to, just let me know in the comments section. So Any Day, a Winter Tales colouring book, and Any Day, an Autumn Vibes colouring book, both by Morgan O'Brien. Okay, so those are the first two. The other two that I bought, these are a little bit different for me. So first off, I'll show you this one. They're both from Creative Haven. And I started looking on Creative Haven because I enjoyed working in the Alice in Wonderland book by Marty Noble. And I found this one by Marty Noble, Saturday Evening Post Americana. And I hadn't seen this book before. So I thought that I would give this one a go because I do like the style of Marty Noble, the line work I like. These older Creative Haven books, I do like the paper that are in them. And so it's all covers from the Saturday Evening Post, I believe. I don't know what the Saturday Evening Post is. I'm not American, but I'm guessing it was some sort of newspaper or magazine or something. It's been in print for nearly 200 years. There you go. So if you read the write-up here, it tells you about it. It says, to many, however, the magazine is forever associated with its covers, many hundreds of which have delighted and moved readers throughout the decades. So it's all from covers. And this book, it says that no copyright. The Saturday Evening Post Americana colouring book is a new work first published by Dover Publications in 2017. So I bought it on Amazon Australia. If you'd like a full flip through of this book, please let me know and I will do that. And the other book that I purchased was this one called Main Street from Teresa Goodridge. Now I think this is the first Teresa Goodridge book that I actually have, and it's all storefronts. And for some reason it captured my attention. I've looked at this book many times. It's been in and out of my cart on Amazon many times, and I keep sort of putting it back, and then I think, no, there's something about it I really like. And so I decided to get it. And I'm going to start colouring in this one today. I've got absolutely no idea which picture I want to do, so maybe we'll do a flip through and then I'll choose. So let me just get sitting down and we'll just go through a bit of a flip through of this one. So Teresa Goodridge, and with most of these Creative Haven books you get a colour version on the cover, of course, and on the inside cover and also the back cover you get a colour version to have a look at. And they're single-sided, so I always like single-sided books so I can use alcohol markers or my water-based markers with water and not worry about bleed through. So we've got a flower shop, bookshop. I always like to have a look in a bookshop. And I have to say, here in Australia, we don't often have little laneways and main streets like this where there are stores to look at. They've gone by the wayside a lot, and most places now just have big shopping centres. So shoe shop. I used to work in a shoe shop, so I always had a bit of fascination with shoes. A little part of the main street. Bridal shop. A music shop, chic boutique, hair salon and Kelly's ice cream, fine jewellery and antiques. Now I haven't really seen anybody colouring in this book. I haven't really gone looking, but I've never seen anyone just sort of pop up with this book. So toy shop, House of Cheese, pizzeria, the theatre, antiques, the candy corner, village hardware, barbershop, fine wines. This would be one of my favourite stores to go and have a look into. I don't mind a glass of wine. The bakery, that would be very tempting as well. The eatery, deli and grill. Town and country furniture. I do like to look in a furniture store that has lots of country style furniture. Travel agent, dream destinations. Cozy bed and breakfast. Kiddie corner, that would be a fun one. Oh, that one looks good, the lolly store. We might start with that one. Vintage vinyl. The hat gallery. The perfume shop. I do like that one as a picture. Candles and soaps, that's another store that I would like to wander in. The dry cleaners, opticians and a seafood market. And there we go. So I might start with, I did like that one with the lollies and candy. I think what I'd like to do though, something that I'm interested in, I'm going to start with water-based markers today with my box of water-based markers with a few different things in, and then I want to come back later and try doing some foliage with acrylic paint markers, so that might be a good one. To apologise if there's any noise in the background, they've just stopped now but they may start back up. We have a house across the street from us who are having their roof tiles cleaned with a pressure washer, and it looks like they might be having a bit of restoration done, so there's a lot of noise coming from across the road. That's another one that I like with the flowers. Or that one. Oh, the bookstore's got some foliage, maybe the bookstore or that one. Hey, let's start with this one. It's the very first picture in the book. We'll put some backing paper behind there. Let me just make sure that I'm in focus here. Yep, so that's looking good. Okay, so I have this big container here that I've got some Crayola Colours of the World, some Faber Castell Connector Pens, and a few oddments of stuff that I've got. So I'm going to get started with this, and I'll talk about what I want to do as I go through. So to start with, I'm going to get all these greens and so on out. What I try to do, and my granddaughter's here at the moment for school holidays, so they're not all in their colour groups, but I generally try to connect them all together in their rough colour groups, so that, no, keep those separate, so that I can find them easily. But, you know, she's only 5 going on 6, so she doesn't always put them back where I'd like them to be. So I'm just going to quickly do that. There's a couple there that I might want to use. And this will just be a start today. I don't plan to get this finished, but we'll see how far I get along. And then I will come back with part 2 at a later stage. Okay, so let's start with some of these lighter greens to begin with. And what I like to do is start with the lighter greens, and then I can do some background colour behind it with the darker greens then. And I try to sometimes just look for shapes of leaves, colour shapes first, rather than trying to make all of one leaf the same colour. But just get, you know, a few little groups started, and then we can do details and extra stuff later. But I like to sort of start with those lighter areas if I can, the bits at the front, and then darken up behind them, and so on. When it comes to such a lot of foliage, it can get a bit overwhelming. And I'll show you a few different techniques that I like to do with the water-based markers, in particular these Faber Castell. Now she's been using my water brushes, so just want to make sure that that's clean. So what I like to do is I'll quite often put the Faber Castell directly on the paper when I'm working in these Creative Haven books, because there's something about this paper that it does seem to work okay doing this way. And so I'll put a little bit of colour down on the directly onto the paper, and then I'll come in with the water brush, and I just put a little bit of water on there, and it just takes those hard edges off or streaking and blends the colour a little bit. And then it's not so obvious when you first wet it, but when it dries and you come back, you start to see how it takes effect with it. So let's just keep going with a few different greens. So we're going to just keep mixing up all the greens, and they're very much all on the same plane, and by that I mean that there's not a lot of foreground and distance in this picture. We're looking at pretty much a scene that is all very much within the same plane of view. So we're not going to have to worry a lot with things like colours in the distance, but what we will have is some direct shadows that we can describe parts that are forward and closer to our eye or above other things. So we'll be able to play with the light and shade a little bit with this one, because it's very much on a you know, on the one sort of plane of view. So this one's quite vibrant, this green, so that will still be better to be coming and popping forward, and then the darker ones may be a little bit darker behind here, but will still give you that little bit of sense of distance, but not you know, not a ridiculous in the background sort of description, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I'm going to do some darker colours down here in the bottom bits here, because the flowers that are above them will be making those areas look a little bit darker. And something else that I like to do with the connector pens a little bit too is that I will put some colour down and actually blend the colours on the page together, and keep reworking it that way as well. And that's one way to blend, working sort of wet into wet areas. And blending it that way with no water. And this will bleed right through, so that's why I save it for these sorts of books where it's single-sided, and it doesn't matter if it does that. And so I'm not staying within lines, that's all very quite abstract, the way that I'm doing that. and that is very vibrant, so let's soften some of that up by adding these other colours into areas where it might be, you know, a bit of shadow being cast from that lovely flower spike there. So, you know, you can get those lights and darks by working that way. You can, of course, keep overlaying layers, wait for one layer to dry. When you work this way, the way that I'm working at the moment, something you do need to be conscious of is that if you overwork one section, sorry, that's Mr. Hamish again. If you overwork one section, it's very wet with the water-based ink, you will pill the surface a little bit as well, so be aware of that. You've got to do it, you have to do it in sections and lightly. So I'll try to show you there. So I've put a little bit of dark colour and then I just keep overworking it like that. And I do it till the point where I feel like the paper's going to start pilling, and then I back off and I let it dry, and then I come back later and apply more colour. So that's another way that you can work with your water-based markers, and in particular these Faber Castell Connector Pens. It's something that I do very often with the Connector Pens. And what I'm thinking is eventually, when I've got this picture to a good point that I'm happy with, I want to then come back on some of this and build a little bit of texture and interest using those acrylic paint markers maybe. We'll see how it goes. I'll adjust as I go along. Because if I get to a point where I'm happy with this, just using these Faber Castell Connector Pens, there's no point complicating things and adding an extra process in just for the hell of it. If I'm happy with this, I'll stick with this. And if I'm not, if I don't quite achieve the look that I'm going for, then I will bring in those acrylic paint markers and see what I can add to the picture with those. So I've talked about it quite a few times that for simplicity's sake, with the way that I tend to work, my working setup, I would prefer to do a picture with all one medium if I could. So if I could do it all with watercolour, I would. If I could do it all with water-based marker, I would. Or all with alcohol marker, I would. Because I pretty much want to simplify everything I do down to very simple techniques and amounts of materials, because I've got limited working space. And also, you know, to be very honest with you, like I usually am, I am a lazy colourist, and if I can achieve something with the least amount of work, with the least amount of cleanup, with the least amount of materials, I'm going to do it. Because that's just my current philosophy on colouring, is that I want to keep this to its most simplicity, so that I can get the enjoyment out of it without having to spend too much time setting up, prepping or cleaning up, and for as little cost as I can. And that's very much how I like to work, but I still want a great result. So I don't want to compromise on my results, and that's why I adapt as I go along. But if I can achieve it, that's what I'm, you know, that's my goal, that's what I'm setting out to do. So very much want simple techniques, simple everything. And I'm sticking to that same sort of palette of colours for two reasons. One, in that although I've got this range of pens here, the colour difference in a lot of them is quite slight, and I'm trying to keep within that sort of yellow-green family of colours. I don't want to bring in the blue-greens too much at this stage. So it keeps it more cohesive the more that I can keep those colours within the same group. And then just at the end I can bring in some pops of different colour, and that will change the complexity of it and create interest right at the end. And I'll just make that look like it's a little autumn leaf on the picture there. So what I try to do too is keep the colours aside that I have been using, so that I do keep using those same colours over and over. And so now I'm looking for some oranges and yellows that I'm going to introduce. And let's get started with a few of those. So I want to bring in some oranges and yellows. And hopefully you can see that, you know, you can build your colours up very quickly with these connector pens. And then what I can do with that is blend some of that with a little water brush. I'm not adding a lot of water, this is just the damp brush. And what I'm doing is just smooshing those colours together basically by softening off all the hard edges, and then details can come back into it later. And let's have a look, we'll go for a bit of a red here for the ribbon. So I want to leave a little bit of a highlight if I can. If not, I can always add some white Prismacolor or coloured pencil or something for these details as well if I need to. And while that is wet, I'm just going to touch the tip of the connector pen to some areas just to put in a little hint of that colour. So what I'm hoping to do with this one is I want to try and make it look like it could be a painting, even though it's being done with water-based markers. And that's why I want to have a go with the acrylic paint marker at the end, is that I want to try and bring in some texture and light effects that might suggest it is a painting, even though it's not. Okay, so that's that one. These will probably be blues and purples and lavenders, I think. So we'll go for the yellow and oranges down here as well. And I'm just going to keep working at that a little bit. And if I don't achieve it that way, what I'm looking for, I can bring in the water brush again. So some of these areas where there's overlap of petals over other flowers, I'm just going to put that slightly darker colour down under there. And of course all those fine details can be added in later, but that's just a starting point. And then just blend those colours a little bit. And then again I can add a little bit of the red into some of those damp areas, and it can bleed in together. And this is quite a loose interpretation in the drawing style as well. It's not highly detailed, so I think this is a nice touch to keep it very loose, very washy, and no real hard edges, apart from maybe the furniture and the man-made structures. They can be a little bit more well defined, I guess. Okay, so let's put some colour on down here, and I like to get that little bit of colour down everywhere to start with, and then I can come back and put details in later when I've got my colour ideas sorted. The only thing I find with the Faber Castell Connector pens is there's not enough choice of pale lilacs and purples for my liking in the range. But we can substitute other things in there. If we see fit. So, like I didn't like that colour very much. I know that this one here, it comes out quite blue, even though it looks like it's, a purple. So let's put a little bit of deeper colour in there, and then I might even put a little bit of pink in there. No, that's not the right pink. That might be nice. Just a little bit of pink on the top. And then maybe put some pinks up here. This looks like it's for someone who's just had a baby. And we'll do a pink teddy bear in there as well. I'll just keep that all very loose at this point. And have a look if we can find the nice pink for the teddy, or maybe even an apricot. That might be nice for the teddy. So my son's just taken my granddaughter to the skate park. There's a playground there. She likes to take her scooter, and they're going to kick the ball and do all sorts of things while they're out at the park. And I'm still not really feeling active enough to do that. I'm really hoping, I've been told that maybe I'm coming to the tail end now of the process, and that I might be able to have very simple dressings put on very soon, instead of this pump dressing that has been giving me no end of problems in the last few days. So I'm hoping that that happens, because I am well and truly over it, to be honest. And then I can start to be a little bit more active, but it's not quite healed up completely yet, so I still will need to be a little bit more careful, but we're slowly getting there. So I thought while they're out of the house, I will just do a quick colouring with you all. It's school holidays here, which is why she's here with him at the moment. He's not quite fully moved into his own place yet. So yeah, it's nice to, while the house is reasonably quiet, apart from that noise over the road, nice to get some sneaky colouring time in, because I wasn't expecting to. Let's have a look what this sort of pink is like here. What you can do with the water-based markers is let that layer dry and then come back and put some extra pink in there. You know, with the same marker, a bit like you can with your alcohol markers. Let's make that a little bit more pink. Might also put some of that down here. So I just wanted with the, pardon me, with this one, give you a slightly different approach, because I know a lot of people on YouTube share the really highly detailed ways to colour, but don't necessarily share too often that you've got these other options of loosely blending and you know, experimenting a little bit more that way. And so I just wanted to try and give you a slightly different viewpoint again. I'm just going to deepen up some of this red. So you can build up colour without having to laboriously layer and layer and layer. And I know some people like to colour that way, and that's, you know, that's okay. If that's what suits you, go for it. But sometimes some of us don't have that mental bandwidth to sit there and just layer and layer and layer like that. And so this is just hopefully going to give you a different viewpoint of different ways you can approach colouring. So on here I think we might use a little bit more of the blue, because we need to start bringing in a bit more of that blue. So I'm going to give these ones blue wrapping paper. And that looks like leaves and flowers. So the cool thing with the water-based markers is that you can do a full picture with them, but they also make a really good base for bringing in pencils and other things just to liven it up a little bit more, but you can get away with just using these and layering them and blending them in different ways. And we can bring in metallics too, maybe something like, metallic on the gift bag and the balloons and so on. You can liven other things up, things up in other ways like that. And I'm going to bring in this bluey green now. And you can also use different strokes, so do like a crosshatch kind of approach will give you different textures and different effects, so you can suggest various surfaces. Everything doesn't have to be that smooth graduated blend if you don't want it to be. So then there'll be a contrasting colour. Let's see. Not sure if this one might be drying out, but we'll bring the contrasting colour there. And of course, white acrylic paint markers always work well for some highlights with your water-based and alcohol markers as well. So I'm starting to rough the paper up a little bit there. So sometimes when I do that, I'll start to do little dots too, so I don't tear the paper up too badly. I'd like that colour to actually be the paintwork. I often think that, we see the lines described here and we think that it has to be brown for wood, but I'm thinking we might try and mimic some sort of country style, shabby chic, chalk paint effect paintwork maybe. It doesn't have to be all brown. So this book might be fun for me because I really do favour these bright, vibrant water-based markers and alcohol marker colours. I really enjoy them over colour pencil pages these days. The colour pencil's great for coming back in and adding some details and the little finishing touches, but I personally am not enjoying using them from start to finish anymore like I used to. So I've got Hamish down here on the floor. If he knocks the camera, that's any wobbles that you see. I'm letting him sit here with me. He's had a bit of upheaval because Evie is here. There's been a lot more noise and carry on and stuff going on, so he's earned a little snooze. And he's doing really well, to be honest, when it comes to dealing with a child here, because we were told that a child might stress him too much. But I think he actually quite enjoys following her about. It actually makes him forget the things that he's scared of at times. So maybe the house is too quiet when it's just the two of us. So I like that, and I think we'll use that for the door frame and the door as well. I think the flower counter there we'll do that in a similar colour range but slightly different colour. So you can see how quick and rough I'm being here with these. I'm not planning on it being smooth. I want it to look like it is potentially a shabby chic paint job, which we know looks textured and rough and is not perfect. And the door potentially could be a lot of that colour, but maybe that main part of the door, it can be a two-tone door. We'll have to see what's going. We'll have to see what's going on around here. But I'm thinking maybe let's start adding some of this into here and blending it back off. And I'm tearing up that paper a little bit. There's a bit of pilling going on there, but as long as I don't create a hole, I'm okay with that, because there's nothing on this side. It doesn't really matter. As long as I don't actually put a hole in. I have been known to do that before. Yeah, I think I'll do the whole door the same colour, and then we'll just do detail and shading with that darker colour. Might even come back and blend some of this out with the water just to give it a slightly different look. I've often thought that if I had the money to start up a business, I would like a store that is old and quirky. And I'd actually like to sell a few things in there. I'd like to sell some books. I've always thought that a bookshop would be nice. I'd like to have a corner that sells some art supplies, because I'd have to sell colouring books. If you sell colouring books, you really should have a colouring corner, I think. So not in depth, but some basic art supplies, just that people can pick up to go with their book, especially if they were new to colouring or buying a gift for someone. They could get a set of pencils to go with their book, or a set of markers, you know, nothing outlandish. And I would also like to sell yarn, because I've got an interest in crochet myself. I thought it would always be nice to have a little section where, you know, again, I'd sell some pattern books and how-to books for knitting and crochet, and then sell some hand-dyed yarns maybe. Try and find a local yarn dyer to produce some yarns just for me maybe. And a nice little sitting area that someone can sit and maybe have a cup of coffee or tea and peruse their purchases. So not huge ranges of anything, but just a little taster. You know, taster of colouring books and books. A few little art supplies to go with them. A few notions and things for the yarn creator. And it would be really, really nice to just have that little area where someone could sit and look at the books, look at the purchases. And maybe a room out the back to do some classes. That would be a nice sort of way to earn a living, I think. Okay, we've got some roses there. They may even stay white. We might leave them yet. We'll have a think about the wall colour, and that has to be quite simple to bring all these other things forward. So unfortunately, they're the colours that I tend to use up first, is those lighter. And there was a neutral cream, which I can't seem to put my hand on. Well, that might be nice. What about a pale pink? Yeah, let's go for pale pink. And then these flowers here will just have to have a bit of work done on them to make them come forward. So I don't think I have a full set of connector pens here at the moment, although there's a lot here. There's a lot of doubles, because what's happened is, as I've run out some colours and they've run dry, I've amalgamated like 2 sets together, and then, as I say, I keep using the same colours over and over out of several sets, and I end up with, 10 shades of the same dark blue but no beige or cream left, because you don't purchase these open stock. That's what tends to happen for me with sets. That's one of the cons to buying sets of things. Well, for me personally, there's always something that I don't like or don't use, and end up with 10 of them, and then keep running dry the same colour over and over. But these Faber Castell Connector Pens here in Australia are dirt cheap. Which is why I keep buying them, especially when my granddaughter uses them. I'm not likely to want her to use things like, a Tombow or something that's a much more expensive water-based marker. So I'm trying to keep my strokes all going in the same directions, and you might notice that I'm choosing to do all the smaller areas first, because once you start on a big area, you need to keep going. So I'll start here, and because I'm right-handed, I'm choosing to come right to left. Sorry, left to right. So that I'm not working over the wet area with my hand. It dries pretty quick, but just so that, especially if you're using a dark colour, you're not going to have that all over your hand. So I'm doing it all the strokes in one direction, because if somebody was painting a wall, they are more likely to do the paint roller all in one direction. And if it's too streaky, what I'll do is do a second coat of colour. I will go in the opposite direction and then I will get that very, very smooth blend by keep working over the top of it. The other option is, of course, too, that I could use a coloured pencil to come over that and give it a bit of texture and make it look like a paint effect has been done on the wall. Now the counter itself, I might actually make that a wood counter. So to start with, I'm going to go with a very light colour. That might be is that a ring for there? That's a bit hard to tell what's going on. So I can't remember if I mentioned it, but this is my first Teresa Goodridge book, I think, and the first page in it. So I know I've watched a couple of colouring chats where people have discovered that sometimes she doesn't always complete an image and the lines don't always, you know, meet up. But that happens quite frequently in a lot of books. But so far, everything seems to be as you'd expect it to be. So again, I'm trying to do my strokes in the direction that the wood grain might be. So it's going down on the legs and then across on the top. And I'm just going to put some darker colour in there. She's drawn in lots of lines that suggest like it's very knotty and grainy sort of wood. I'm not sure what that is. It might be a price tag, perhaps. Maybe that's what it is. And then we'll bring in a third colour in this area where it would be darkest. We'll bring in a brown and start to build up some suggestions of shadows and so on. And that one there would be sort of inlaid a little bit. You've got your countertop, you've got your leg, and then you've got this bit would be sort of inlaid, set back. Let's just put a bit of a suggestion there. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit of water in a few areas. I'm just going to go across there. So very little water being added really, it's just what's coming through the brush naturally. I'm not squeezing it. And all that will do is just, it's kind of diluting the colour but also moving it off to the sides. And so you end up with some sort of lighter and darker areas, and you just soften off some of those hard edges and you get some sort of watercolory type effects in there. But it's really not much water at all that I've added on there. And then I sort of, you know, keep making sure that my brush is clean before I move to another colour. And here it will just help suggest that that is in fact underwater. Okay, so let's let that dry. Yeah, see this isn't really finished off correctly here in this section, but we'll adjust as we go along. So I'm going to suggest that some of these are wood frames. Actually, let's make all of those wood, and it matches the counter then. And I'm going to suggest that that is wood. And in this bit here, I want to suggest that these are tiles, or, you know, you get pressed tin. And pressed tin can be painted. Well, here in Australia, old stores and old buildings used to have that pressed tin a lot, and it would get painted and what have you. And that's what I'm hoping to suggest here. So if it was to be like fake tiles, sorry, that's Hamish there. If it was suggesting tiles, the centre of it would be white, like a high point. And I want it to look a bit like shabby, so I'm going to suggest like the paint, you know, might have got a bit scuffed, and this isn't your perfect high-end sort of store. This is going to be like a country town store with a bit of character and well loved. So just put a bit of shadow in there. Okay, let's leave that for now, and we can come back to that as well. Just there was a period of time in Australia where there was an unusual shade of green that seemed to be all the rage, and I rather liked it, to be honest. I like old things. I very much like old houses with a lot of character, and I'm not into very modern, although I like minimal stuff. I like it to be old minimal stuff. So I'm going to make this look like it might be a terracotta pot. Even though it's got a handle, it looks like it's cracked, so like it's a pottery terracotta-y sort of type of pot. And again, we don't want it to look too perfect. Because I just feel like this store is one of those shabby chic type stores. It doesn't scream shiny and modern to me. And so I think all its decor would be. I'm sorry if Hamish is moving that. I might have to move him soon. Okay. I'm sorry. Let's hope he's not moving that too much. Okay, we need some sort of wrapping paper in here, and we don't have a lot of red, so I'm just going to put red in there. And I'm going to make the box that it's in a slightly deeper red for the most part. And what we're going to do with that one is we're going to just soften off some of that as well. So I think Hamish is dreaming. It looks like he's running in his sleep. So we're hopefully coming up to the point where I can let this dry thoroughly and then come back in part 2 and show you how I plan to use some acrylic markers. I think this pot over here we're going to bring in a little bit more blue, but a deeper. A deeper blue like this. And that lighter one. Okay, so that will do. This one here, I'm thinking what will go sort of with those yellows and oranges. And it does have polka dots on there, so I can come back with an acrylic paint marker or paint pen or gel pen or something and put some white dots back onto there, I think. Might look nice. Just peeled up a bit of paper there. And might do a little bit of that in the centre of those flowers. I think these can be like white. You need to leave some pops of white around the place. The balloon up here, I'd like that to be, I was thinking red because we've got the red on there. We'll make that a shiny balloon, and we'll just make sure that it has a red ribbon. And yeah, I'm not really finding the right sort of pink that I want. I want a pink for there, but I'm not finding what I want. I might have to look for some different water-based markers. Sorry guys, I didn't know when he did that, so I hope it wasn't too long ago. Okay, so just over an hour we're into this. It's taking a little bit longer than I thought, but there is a lot of detail in this page. So I'm going to do that in green. And that should end about there, I think. And I might have to end here soon, guys, and head off. And it might be a few days before you get to see the completion of this one, because it will all depend on when I get some quiet time. Or what I might do is I might complete the rest of the page with the water-based markers off camera, and then come back to you when I'm going to do the acrylic markers. Might be the easiest way to go. I'm going to suggest that you can see blue sky through the window. And I need, that's drying out a little bit, so whoops, that would have been a big mistake, wouldn't it? I've got markers everywhere here. So just a quick question, do you guys like seeing a start to finish colouring like I have been doing, where I colour everything on camera, or would you prefer that bits get done off camera and I come back, or that I maybe speed the footage up and try to do a voiceover? Or do you like to actually sit and hear my thoughts as I go through and just see exactly how long it takes me to colour in real time? Because I know some people sort of feel like when they see a sped up video, it doesn't give them a true indication of how much time it takes to actually complete a detailed image like this. So if you'd like to let me know what your preferences are there, it would be handy to know, because I could look into maybe whether I can start fast forwarding some bits and maybe try to do a voiceover style video, or whether you just prefer to have a little bit of time in your day where you feel like you're just sitting and colouring with me and we're having a chat. So let me know what you think. So I might leave that there now. I've got markers all over the place. I'm getting really hungry. It's almost lunchtime. I'm quite happy with the way that's coming along. Push that off to the side. And I'll try to zoom in. And you can see some of the effects that I'm getting there with the way that I've been working. And I've also got a low battery, so perfect time to finish, I think. Okay, so that's part one of the Flower Shop from Main Street Colouring Book, Creative Haven book by Teresa Goodridge. And I'm quite happy with the way that's coming along so far. Thanks for being with me, and I will see you as soon as I can with part two. Bye now.